Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Breck Latney on Air. Today we have our guest, Catt McCreary. Catt, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Catt McCreary. I am a Nashville-based pop artist, originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm super excited to be here today.
Super dope. So tell us a little bit how you got into music. How did you start making music?
I started out on piano when I was 5 years old. And so it kind of all started literally when I was 5 years old. I really enjoyed playing the piano. Created a little bit of discipline at 5 years old doing classical piano. And then when I was six, my mom bought me a drum kit. So I started on drums and I was doing drum kit and then also like classical percussion. And it all just kept progressing from there. I taught myself guitar when I was 10, and actually singing was the last thing that I decided to do next to songwriting. I joined a children's choir and they were like, hey, you can sing. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, that sounds awesome. I was like, that pairs well with literally everything else I've been doing.
Yeah.
I started singing and putting two and two together that I could play piano and sing and, play like Katy Perry songs and stuff like that. And then started writing music because my mom was like, hey, people write this music. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, yeah, people have to write these songs. And I was like, okay, you're onto something. That's true. So started writing music and been doing it ever since.
So your
Yeah.
mom had a huge impact in just you being an artist altogether, huh? Like she gave you
Yeah.
instruments. Did she have a musical background as well?
Um, she did not have a serious musical background, but she had been in band, growing up and things like that. So it was sort of something where she grew up that kids did, I guess, is sort of like, an extracurricular, but also a little bit of discipline so that they have something to like practice and do outside of just studying or sports or whatever. So I think because she was raised that way, it just sort of made sense for like, my kids are going to try everything and then
Yeah.
they'll narrow it down eventually.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
I think that's super dope for completely off topic, but super dope for a parent to do just to get the kids involved in everything. So you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. But at what
Yeah.
point did you realize that you wanted to take the artist route?
So basically, sort of like rewind a little bit, before I started piano, I was actually doing dance. And I was doing dance really seriously, just like basically anything performing. My mom knew that I loved it so much. And she had my dance teacher when I was like 4 years old, like 4 or 5, be like, yeah, she's going to be a performer. Like you can see her face light up when she's on stage. She loves it so much. Like there was something even at that age about like dancing. And even though it was just like the parents of the children, I was just like, you like this? Yay. Like this is awesome. And loves being on stage, loves like learning the routines, everything. So then as I got older, it was sort of like, okay, there's only so much time in the week. You're doing like 4 to 5 dance classes, like a couple times a week each, and then also taking piano lessons and drum lessons and like all this stuff when I was like 10 years old. And we're like, okay, kind of have to choose one because you have to go to school and learn how to be a person.
Yeah.
And so basically it was like, I know I'm going to be performing, but which one do I like want to do the most?
Yeah.
And so music, being an artist, sort of became the thing. I really enjoyed songwriting. And at that point it was like, in Atlanta I was playing out, like playing shows. I was in something called School of Rock. I was playing with bands. And it was like songwriting and being an artist were like the same thing to me at that point.
Yeah.
So I just loved it so much. And then I started focusing on that aspect of it and not really doing dance anymore. And it just like took off.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you said you know how to use a lot of instruments and stuff like that. Do you ever produce any music? Do you like really do you dabble
Yeah.
in production as well?
Yeah. I co-produce my music. So like things that are out, I co-produce, at least in the last year or so. I take production very seriously at this point, because it's one thing that I feel like when you come from a musician standpoint and like songwriting and being an artist, you know, like a lot of people don't think about what the producers are doing or like the engineers and like all that goes into that. So actually, when I was in college, my minor was in production, and that kind of helped me, I think, like put a curriculum to it. But it was also like you kind of learn on your own. Like you have a teacher, but you also just have to like do it. And so, yeah, I did that because I was like, you know what? To get the sound that I want, because I want a fusion of like all these different artists and all these different genres, I need to know how to produce, because even if I had someone else fully producing my music, I need to know how to communicate with them, because nobody knows more what an artist wants than the artist. So like, yeah.
And that definitely helps when you have a vision. Then you know, like you want something to sound like this, and you know, you have to know those musical terms to like explain it, you know, to somebody to even bring that to light. So I completely agree.
Yes.
So you've been doing music for how many years now?
It's a good question. I'd say almost, I'm 23. So like since I was 5, that's like almost 20 years.
But you haven't released your first single till 2014, right?
Yes, my first single was 2014.
Okay. So you've had a long journey. What's one thing that if you could go back in time and tell your younger artist self, what would that be?
I think it would be to find what is uniquely you, because, you know, growing up, especially being a musician and then sort of finding out about songwriting after the fact, it was sort of like I was listening to all these musicians, or like John Mayer and like Katy Perry and like Adele and all this stuff. And I was like covering their music, and it was almost like putting myself in a box. You know what I mean? Of like, I want to be the next Adele. I want to be the female John Mayer and like all this stuff. And I feel like, especially when you're young, you're already struggling with who you are.
Yeah.
You don't even know what life is when you're like a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to put yourself in a box and think like, I have to do it this way, you know, like I have to do this in order to do this, and just try to be a role model, like, or be your role model, rather than like, what do I feel? Like, what do I want my music to sound like? And that also plays into, you know, I wish I knew more about production and engineering earlier on, because it goes hand in hand, knowing your sound and then knowing how to get your sound.
Yeah.
And once I learned those things, it was like full speed ahead, you know, like my brand, what I want, and my music, like just absolutely adoring it, rather than being like, how do I do this? Like, what's going on? So, yeah.
So what's your favorite, talking about like, you know, just the music creating process, you know, you've been getting into production, some engineering, songwriting. What's your favorite part of the music creating process?
It's a good question. I love it all, but I will say that songwriting, I think, is still like my favorite step, because there's nothing better than like sitting there coming up with melodies, and you get the perfect melody in your mind, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a bop. Like, this is going to be a bop. We're gonna pull this off right now. And especially if you're co-writing with people, it's like, you know, I co-write with a lot of my good friends, and we get that melody, and then the lyrics just like happen, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, it feels like magic, because it's like, you listen to like the top 40 or like whoever you listen to, and you're like, how did they do that? Like, how did they even come up with this? But then when you're in the writing room, you're like, how did I even come up with this? Like, this
just
is
came straight out of thin air. I was gifted these lyrics.
Exactly. It's like, you know, it's just amazing. And then from there, being able to go produce it, and like, then you get the final product. I'll say probably my next favorite part about it is getting that final master, because when I get that master back, I swear it brings tears to my eyes every time, because I'm like, we did it. Like, it's here, it's done, it's fully packaged, and it's perfect in my mind, you know? So.
And I completely understand that. Like, you're literally taking an idea that's not physical in any way, like it's just in your
Mhm.
brain, taking it and, turning it into that final product.
Yeah.
That's just
It's you really can't beat it. Like
no.
I feel like that I love what I do in this industry because it's just like it's so rewarding every time to be like not even just oh I love this, but like I think about, everyone that listens to my music and people that are following me and I'm like this is for them. Like they're going to love this. Like I'm in an industry where it's like I'm doing this for them. Like it's not for me. Like if it were just for me, I just keep it in my notes and be like this is amazing and listen to it all day. But like it's so rewarding to be like I pulled this off for people. Like they're going to hopefully love this
Yeah.
and it's like a present for them, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. I completely agree. So like everyone has like a different process to like
Mm-hmm.
songwriting. Like you said, I can already tell like maybe when you have a beat or you have a instrumental, you kind of just sing and find melodies and write later. What's specifically your songwriting process?
Honestly, I've done it so many different ways. Like over the years, some people start with the lyric or they start with a concept or a beat or melody, whatever. And in the most recent years, I've found that what I enjoy most or like what comes to me the most natural for like starting a song is melody. Like even if someone gives me a beat or if I make a beat or like whatever, the first thing that comes to my mind is like locking in the melodies or at least getting somewhere in the ballpark of something that I'm like, yeah, that's fire. Like I can work with that,
Yeah.
until, I mean, sometimes I start with lyrics, like if I'm with other people and that's kind of what they do. But when I'm by myself, it's always like, this is the melody. And like the other day I had to write and my friend had a beat and I was like, all right, what about this melody? And they were like, okay, great. And then we wrote the lyrics. And, you know, I feel like it just works out. I don't
Yeah.
know. For me, I think it's just, I love melodies. Like somebody can just be singing like da 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 da. And if it's a fire melody, I'll be like, yeah,
Yeah. Right.
banger. Yeah,
Yep.
top of the charts.
So like some of the songs, like you said, you've come up with the lyrics first. What is it like having the lyrics and trying to produce a song around that? Do you feel like that is something? Do you feel like that's challenging? Do you feel that it's hard to come up with instrumentation? You know what I mean? What do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you have a concept, it's, or like words, or let's say a chorus or something, it's always, it's interesting coming up with like the production around it
Yeah.
because like, what is the flavor of this? Or like, what's the mood? Like, if I use this instrument, are people going to be like, this sounds happy, but this song is really depressing? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing with production that it becomes tricky if you let it trip you up, is like overthinking, like, what is this really going to sound like? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's something where like once you have the concept, like my songs, lyrics, melody, whatever, we understand the concept and think like, all right, what's the tempo? Like put a beat down. That's like usually that's what I go to, is I'm like, let's get a beat down, like let's do this. And tempo and beat, I feel like once you get those two, it's sort of like not smooth sailing because obviously production is a
Yeah.
lot of work, but you at least have the flavor there of like it's a slower song, like it's a ballad, or like it's an upbeat song, like want to play it at the club, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you can put the melodic instruments to it, like just whatever feels right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing that, or sometimes I'll just do full on melodies and I'm like, all right, I'll put lyrics to this later. Like
Yeah.
let's just get
And it's
production
funny
done.
because like most people that I talk to, that's just the most least path of resistance way to get a good product. You know what I mean? Just come up with the melodies and not forcing the lyrics. You know what I mean? Like
Right. Yeah,
so.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, lyrics are definitely important, but again, like I still feel like the melody is really what hooks people, and especially with some of the most like amazing singers we have on the charts today, it's like what if you don't even like I don't even know the words to half the songs, but I know the
Yo,
melodies. I recognize the melodies. So
it's
it's
so
like
true. It's so true because
yeah.
melody I feel like it's like priority. And second, like if you have a good melody and then good lyrics, then you just have a beautiful song. But
Fire.
like you said, I could
Fire.
be in a car and just listening to some random song, but if the melody is there, you know what I mean? You
Exactly.
so
That beat and melody. Yep.
so it seems like you have a good handle on your brand. I feel like a lot of artists miss this. Like I go to your Instagram page and like it's you, and
Thank
you've
you.
definitely packaged yourself well. So I'm like, if anyone goes to your page, you're gonna get who you are, what your vision is, like all the colors and everything come together. And I just like, okay,
Right.
this is who this artist is.
Hmm.
If you have any, do you have any advice on where to start when it comes to artists trying to create and promote a certain brand?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it took me a minute to figure out what my brand was. It was like, especially doing this for such a long time and like going through the growth process of like high school and, being in a private school in Atlanta. It's like you're in a city, but I'm in a private school and like I'm also 14 years old
Yeah.
and like trying to be a musician, like whatever that meant at that point, and then going to college and doing the same thing. It's like, I didn't always know like what my brand was, but I think what really helped me was figuring out what is authentically me and what I really love. Again, going back to like, don't put yourself in a box, because this industry and many industries are built on putting something in a box and trying to sell the product as it's this, it's ABC, and that's it. And it's like, when you're an artist, like, you don't want to be in a box. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, yes, I'm extra, but like, that's my brand. If
Yeah.
I weren't, it wouldn't be my brand. And especially in high school, it's like I was afraid to wear like, too much or like be blah, blah, blah based on like just being a high schooler. And then once I finally felt comfortable and was like doing pop and I figured out what my sound was, my brand just sort of like came to me, because I was like, yeah, this is who I am. Like, I take influence from hip hop. I did jazz in high school, like grew up around R&B, and then I love pop. Like, figured that out, and the brand just sort of like came to me because I finally felt like this is who I am. I can be confident in who I am, and just like don't be scared to be who you are.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
it's you,
And
and that's like what people love about artists, is that they are them.
yep.
So
And I think it's very important because your brand literally reflects the person you are. Like you, literally, your personality just reflects your brand. You're
right,
upright and headstrong. You know what I mean?
right,
And I
yeah.
feel like some artists, in real life, they're very a certain way, but on Instagram they're like emo, and it just doesn't make sense. And then
Yeah,
like, who are you? And I feel like a lot of people can
right.
see through that. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big thing about what I write mostly too, is just like, people should be confident in who they are. And especially if you're wanting to be an artist or a song, like anybody in the entertainment industry, really, I feel like from my experience, what works out is being authentic, and people seem to like it. And you could be the most extra person. You could be like me. And I feel like people are still, like they still are at least like, that's who she is. You know what I mean? Like, she is. I actually had someone recently be like, do you dress this way? And like, you look like an artist. Yeah. They were like, you look like an artist, but like, is this what you normally wear? Is this like what you just wear to like meetings? And I was like, no, I love to dress this way. I was like, trust me. I was like, if I have the time to dress this way and put my hair up and do my makeup and have my nails done, like, that's exactly who I
I
am. Like,
love
I
it.
absolutely love it. So I would recommend that to everyone that wants to be an artist. It's like, you can be whoever you want to be. People are gonna love it if they love your brand. Like,
Yeah,
that's just
if you're being true to yourself.
right.
So you said you're big on pop. Who are your top pop? That was kind of hard. Top pop and influences.
Okay, I'm a huge Bieber fan.
Okay.
Love Justin Bieber, which is a classic. Um, I love Ariana, like Bieber and Ariana, obviously. Hugely influenced by Charlie Puth. Absolutely love Charlie Puth. I think he's an amazing producer, amazing songwriter. I love Khalid. Absolutely love Khalid. And those are kind of like my top. Like, those are my go-to for pop.
Yeah.
for sure.
And I'm not gonna lie, that last Justin Bieber album was ridiculous. I was like, wait. I was
So
like, hold
good.
on, can I play Justin Bieber real quick? Let me just.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, that's me. Everywhere I go, I'm like, excuse me, can I cue out some Bieber? Really, I think he has a phenomenal voice, super
Yeah,
unique,
the kid is
and
he's talented. Like
he's
he
very
has so much range when it comes to, stepping outside of the box and just creating anything. So I really
talented.
think that's dope. And then I wish I could sing like Khalid. So anyways, we're gonna.
Love Khalid. Absolutely love him.
So tell us how you got to like where you are now. Like where do you stand with the music industry? Where are you at as an artist? How did you get to where you are?
So right now, I am focusing always on producing my music, writing new music, all based in pop for the most part, and booking shows now that things are reopening, which is very exciting. And I have a great show, in August in Nashville, which I'm super excited about. And I'm really just focusing on creating more music for people and listening to what people like today and what they want to hear more of, and like concepts that they need to hear, for themselves that will help them.
Yeah.
And writing music based around that and trying to do something unique with production. That's kind of where I'm at, and just continuing to evolve as an artist and grow fans, hopefully that resonate with what I write and what I produce, and perform for them
Yeah.
as things open back up.
So you're from Nashville. Do you feel like Nashville had any influence on your music, your sound at all?
I think it did. Yeah, I think that, coming from Atlanta where there's a music scene, but I was doing acoustic, I was like doing singer-songwriter acoustic stuff, which was amazing. And I was doing jazz also when I was writing. And I was kind of doing like the bluesy thing, which I absolutely love. But I
Oh,
think when I moved to Nashville, I think the country industry here definitely, it was different. I was walking into a completely different world of songwriters and predominantly country. And especially going to school here, I was able to see things evolve once I moved here,
yeah.
see all the other genres that are here. And I think that opened my eyes because the industry is so much bigger here and there are more people doing it, where it was like, oh, I'm a singer songwriter, but look at all these genres that I can actually like
Indulge in.
dabble in
Yeah.
and write in, and actually figure out what I want my sound to be. So it sort of changed from just being a songwriter who like performs and sings and releasing some music to like, hey, this is Nashville. We have all of these genres. Everybody's doing this. So you got to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so it definitely, I feel like being in an atmosphere like Nashville, the synergy of everyone doing it gave me even more drive to figure out exactly what I want to do as an artist. And I think that's one great thing about being in, well, literally Music City. I was going to say a music city,
Yeah.
but being in a city that's so centralized around the entertainment industry and music is that even if you already have the drive, which I definitely did, it pushes you even more to go even farther than you even anticipated.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really great move to come here and really learn the industry inside out, like from all different depths, and still not an expert, still learning every single day, as you should be learning every single day in this industry, and still very grateful to have a lot of people here that are so helpful in teaching and creating an amazing community.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've always heard like there was quite a huge music scene over in Nashville, but that's super dope. So you get to collaborate, and you feel like maybe there's a lot of support, finding other creatives and getting together and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what's your biggest milestone as an artist, where you're at, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with me?
That's a good question. I'd say my biggest milestone.
This interview, right? No, I'm joking.
Yeah, this interview. Exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Um, I'd say honestly, you know, aside from like songs, getting over 100,000 and like streams like that, like my biggest milestone is almost like personal in terms of like when I released my song Grip on Me, and I felt like, okay, this is my entrance into like the pop world. Like I had always written pop melodies, but I was doing more, like I said, like the blues, acoustic songwriter thing. And so I released my song Grip on Me, and I was like, I'm finally like really in pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I took some time to keep evolving that sound and released my song Hardball. And I kind of called it like my comeback kid song, like
Yeah.
I was pop when I did Grip on Me, but I was still like, okay, I'm pop and I'm going to like push it, like really, really go for it. And
Yeah.
Hardball like resonated with so many people. And I had so much amazing feedback of people being like, hey, this song really made me feel confident. This song really helps me like get through the day. And like
Wow.
your content with that song makes me feel like powerful, and like things like that is my goal.
Yeah.
So it's like that was amazing to hear that response on Hardball and other songs I've released, because my number one goal, as I kind of said earlier, is like empowerment and like confidence. That's what I want people to feel when they listen to my music. And when I released Hardball, I was kind of like, all right, here it is, Hardball. Like this is gonna be like a baddie anthem, and like
Yeah.
everybody better feel like super empowered and hype, like whatever. And it worked. I was like, people are resonating with who I am, what I believe in, my brand, and I hope that I can continue to do that,
Yeah.
because there's no bigger milestone than making something for people and then they're like, this is exactly what I needed, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So it's like, speaking of fans, what's one thing you wish your fans could understand about you?
I think it goes back to, again, like that I make this music for them. You know what I mean? Like if it were just for me, like I said, I would just write it down on a notepad and I would be doing some other job and just like singing to myself in the shower or whatever to make myself happy. But really why I do this is because like back to when I was 5 years old, dancing on stage to like Little Mermaid, whatever, um, doing it for people and just seeing them be like, oh, I love this. Like, this is amazing. Doing this. And I'm like, I should keep doing this. If you like it, and it's like to be able to combine what I believe in along with like what my fans need or like my listeners really need, and make something that they are proud of
Yeah.
and they enjoy and they can kind of benefit from in any way, shape, or form. Like I do this for them. So like that's kind of what I want them to know, is that I'm here for them, and
Yeah.
whatever they need, I hope that I can help them.
Yeah. And that's a good way to look at it. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who are just like, I'm going to make this and I don't care what people think. But at the end of the day, you really do care what people think because you want people to
Yeah.
listen to your music. You know what I mean?
I mean, like that's the thing, is it's like I understand the like concept of like, I want this to be what I want it
Yeah.
to be, which I want my music to be of the standard that I want it to be, or of the sound, because that's who I am.
Yep.
At the same time, it's like I still am doing it so that the people can benefit from it, because
Yeah.
if they're not listening to it, why would I be doing this? You know what I mean? Like I think it definitely goes hand in hand. There's a fine line between the two, but I will say that like for me, it's like what I like is making other people happy and doing something that helps them and benefits them. So I guess it kind of comes back like full circle of like what they want to listen to is also what I want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good that you're in that place. You know, like, okay, I want to make this type of music, and I know my fans want to listen to this
Right.
too. So
Yeah.
that's super dope. So from your perspective, what do you think? What does it take to be a successful artist in today's industry?
I think that it takes a lot of persistence and it takes a lot of drive, because it's not the easiest industry, as one can imagine. And you will hear no a lot, and you will get, pushed down a lot in terms of like, it's a creative industry, but also people have opinions.
Yeah.
They're not always going to agree with your brand or what you think and your opinions or how you feel about your brand. And I think the thing is you just can't give up. Like if you love it and you believe in yourself and you believe in your brand, you will find an audience that believes in you, and that's why you have to be persistent, because there are how many people in the world? You're not going to reach all of them in a month.
Yeah.
So you have to be persistent. And again, you have to make sure that you are being authentic and you are creating a brand that surrounds you as who you actually are. Because at the very least, I mean, you need to be happy as a person.
That's true. Yeah.
And also, like you said, people can see through it. Like if you're doing something just so you can get on the charts or whatever, it's going to come through in your performance. And, it goes hand in hand, persistence, and also just not giving up in terms of being yourself and the music that you make, that you believe in, and what your fans feel about you.
Yeah. Yep. So do you create all your content yourself? Like, do you do pretty much everything yourself?
Yes. I have, my mom is my business manager, so she helps me with some of the business stuff, because she was an entrepreneur, owned many businesses, very smart woman. And so I'm very fortunate to have her and friends that help me with like some of my content. But in terms of coming up with the ideas and my brand and what works for my brand and everything, right now it is me and my mom, who helps me when I have questions and still need mom's help a little bit.
Yeah.
Because no one will be more honest than your parents, that's for sure. And no one will have your back like your parents.
That's
so
also true.
Yes, it's very DIY, and I enjoy every minute of it. And I love the late nights creating content and coming up with the next idea. So yeah.
Yeah. So, being as though you already kind of have a setup, do you plan on staying indie, or what are you kind of shooting for? What are your goals? Anywhere you can fit? Like, what?
I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like you can't be closed-minded in this business, especially right now. I'm completely independent and loving every minute of it. And I feel like it's one of those things where in the future, if a label came to me and it felt right and it really felt like we understood each other, I would definitely not be opposed.
Yeah.
And it really just depends on what happens down the road, because, I have goals. I want to tour, I want to make the top 50. I want to be like international. So
Yeah.
it's like, sometimes it works. I don't, I mean, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. So you got some performances out. Where are you going? Where are you having shows at? So I can go.
Yes. So my first show is in Nashville. My first show in the last few months is in Nashville, and it's at a place called Mercy Lounge on August 19th. I'm so excited for it, and I really can't wait. I'm super stoked to play some new music and see everybody's faces for the first time since the pandemic. Right. On stage, with the bright lights, I'll only see a few faces, but I'm very excited to share the music with people live. And yeah,
definitely get over this whole COVID hump, because I want to go see some shows. So if you could describe your sound in a few words, what would that be?
Oh, a few words.
I'm just making you think. I just want to see how fast you could think on the spot. That's it.
I would say, well, I would say a fusion. It's a fusion of pop, R&B, and hip hop. I'd say that's really kind of everything incorporated into my music in different ways, different elements in each song.
Dope. I mean, it's so dope that you're willing to step outside and do different genres and incorporate certain things. Because as a listener, I really like to hear people who are versatile. Like there's this one artist that I listen to called John Bellion. Like he
Yeah.
makes a lot of pop stuff, but he also makes like R&B and hip hop, and like he's just all over the place. And as a listener, like to me that's exciting because I don't know what's like every song is going to be different. So I'm just like in
Right.
for that
Yeah.
road. So
Yeah.
so you got
Yeah.
any go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
no,
didn't
no,
mean to
no.
cut you
I
off.
was just gonna say I totally agree. I think
Yeah.
it's, I feel like it goes back again to like when I found my sound, it was like, I take a lot of inspiration from hip hop. Like there, I basically only listen to hip hop and pop, obviously. And if you listen to people like Bieber or like Charlie Puth and stuff, it's like they also have like that soul background and they're musicians, but they're doing pop and they love jazz and like all this stuff. And like you can just hear it come together. And I think
Yeah.
that's one thing I was like, yeah, I want to do that. It just feels natural to do something like
Yep.
that.
Like Charlie Puth, like I feel like he's the king of funk pop. Like you could
Yeah,
just tell he
for
had
sure.
that
Yeah.
background and just incorporated that
Yeah.
just that funk pop thing that was going on, and
Yeah.
that was super unique to him.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the beats like that you hear in pop today, it's like hip hop. Like hello,
Yeah,
like
it's
that it's
crazy.
all from hip hop. And I was talking with someone today. I was like, pop and hip hop are like they're not the same thing, but they are very intertwined today. And I think it's amazing. I literally could not have asked for a better thing to happen. Um, and I think that's like one thing that you hear in like Puth, Bieber, Ariana, like all this stuff in the top 40, like a rapper will be featured or the beats are at least there,
Yeah,
and I think it's amazing how hip hop and soul and R&B have just like worked their way into the pop world because that's where it started.
yeah, and that's kind of why like I've kind of been listening to a lot more pop because pop isn't what it was like when I was growing up. Like there's so many different sounds. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's
Yes.
pop with trap, there's pop with like 90s hip hop drums, there's pop EDM. There's so many like different realms of it. Um,
Right.
so before I go, tell me about your upcoming single, "Good for You."
So, Good For Me is a song that actually, crazy enough, I wrote my sophomore year of college. And it was my song that I called like the first real like top 40 commercial pop song that I had written. And this was around the time that I ended up releasing Grip on Me and everything. And I was still playing shows out. And I told my guitarist, I was like, hey, I just wrote a song. And I was like, it is commercial pop. Like, this is going to be the song. And I revisited it, years later, obviously. And I was like, yeah, I still absolutely love this song. It still feels like me to a T, like my identity and who I am as an artist. And it's funny to think like I wrote this when I was kind of like starting to be in like the commercial pop world
Yeah,
and like had a feeling like this is going to be my first like commercial pop song. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like the real one. And then now I come back to it and I'm like, full circle. I wrote this and was like, this is going to happen, like manifested it. And now I'm releasing it and I'm still obsessed with it. I absolutely love it. I love how my co-producer and I made it turn out like production wise. It just feels very authentically me and it feels like I'm just so excited for people to hear it
yeah.
because it's like I am here. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't want to go into too many details, but I'm very stoked for people to hear it and yeah.
Super dope. I can't wait to check it out. Kat, where can people follow you?
Catt McCreary, CattMcCreary on everything. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. What else is there? TikTok. I'm on TikTok. Basically any social media, same handle on everything.
The consistency. I love it.
I'm very, very proud of that consistency.
You never know because on one social site, you're like, dang it, they took my handle.
I know. I'm very lucky. Trust me, I know. I'm so lucky that I got all the same handles. Really.
All right, Kat, I think you're going to do well. You have the drive, you have a good personality. I think you're
Thank
going to
you
do
so much.
good. again, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun, and I look forward to talking with you in the future too.
I don't wanna be too quick.